Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you InBetweenIsode number 78. So we are doing a tea that I don't know if I've covered in any InBetweenIsodes. We filmed a couple episodes on this sort of tea genre of aged oolongs, and one of the reasons is there's just not a lot available in the West. It's a tea genre that I'm actually very fond of, but the amount of easily acquirable good examples of aged oolongs in the West either tend to be A, expensive, or B, not very good, or C, which is usually the case, both. So the market in the West kind of stinks in the West for aged oolongs. So I was lucky enough to get a number of pretty good examples from Tony of Origin Tea right before he shut down business. So I ended up with like a big box of, I think probably his miscellaneous samples, which has been very fun and educational to drink through. And so we are drinking one of those teas today. I called it the box. It's actually just a box of, some of them have a couple ounces, some of them have just a single serving. It's just a very assorted random box of goodies for me to drink through. So I've been drinking through that slowly for the past, I guess, almost 2 years now. So here is one that was just labeled as 1985 Fujian Tieguanyin. So that would make it a mainland tea. So Tony was based out there in Taiwan. So most of the aged oolongs that I was able to get from him were Taiwanese. So stuff like Fujian Tieguanyin, the Taiwanese style of doing it, Dongding, and aged Baozhong, stuff like that. So teas that were harvested in Taiwan and presumably were also aged in Taiwan. So this one's a little bit interesting because it was originally harvested, at least supposedly, in the mainland. So we're gonna have a quick smell here. So I've already rinsed rinsed once and preheated before that. So some plum. Maybe a hint of vegetalness, not much. Yeah, we'll see. So if we were to really simplify, for those of you that haven't had a ton of aged oolongs, I'm gonna let that steep for just a hot second. I'm so used to flash steeping my pu'er that sometimes I kind of fall back on that habit when it comes to aged oolong, but you can steep these for a little bit longer. And for those that really want to simplify the profile of aged oolongs just to something very basic so you can understand, generally the flavor that you're sort of looking for is very clean, good, sweet plum taste. It's a very specific sort of taste, so if you had good aged oolong, you're probably nodding along, you know what I'm talking about. And the tastes that aren't so great are sourness, tanginess. So usually those will happen when a little bit too much humidity gets into the tea. So a lot of these aged oolongs have been stored in Taiwan where it's naturally fairly humid. So that can be a real enemy and can definitely ruin or detract from the overall experience of the tea. And the other thing that could happen is the tea is just re-roasted. And that doesn't inherently kill it, but it makes it more of a roasted oolong and gets rid of sort of like that aged oolong plum profile that that people that like aged oolong like myself really enjoy. So I tend to think of those as a different sort of tea experience than the aged oolongs that I look for. Not to say that they're terrible or anything like that. They could be well done, but I prefer this sort of tea. Cheers, guys. It's got a really nice body, actually, for something like this. There's definitely a little bit of sourness, a little bit of tanginess that sort of hits you right when you take your big gulp. So it sort of hits the tongue. You kind of have the oily thickness to it, and then the taste is predominantly sweet. So I'd say overall, the taste is very close to clean. It's not 100% clean in the sense that you still get some of that sourness to it, but it's not at all overpowering. I would expect that sort of like humid tanginess would go away as we continue to steep out. So I would say right now it's predominantly sweet with a hint of sourness of the sort of fruit plum taste to it. Yeah, let's have another smell. A little bit of grain. Still sort of that plumminess is at the front. Maybe hints of grain maybe, I want to say. And we'll do this again. And one thing that I definitely recommend for people doing aged teas or whatever is, tea will tend to mellow out with age, so going really light on your leaf to water ratios is generally not the best idea. I understand the logic in sort of like trying to prolong how long the tea lasts. Like, let's say I buy an ounce of a really nice aged tea, I might only want to drink like 3 grams or something like that. I think it's generally better to use a higher leaf to water ratio so you can have the sort of like full experience of the hui gan, the oiliness, the body of the tea, and you really just need a certain amount of tea to actually enjoy it. So I think aged oolongs also, as I was saying, tea tends to mellow, so you really do need to up that ratio. Aged oolong also. So one of the things that I use is a Yixing, and I think this Yixing pot might retain heat better than any of my other Yixing pots. So what you're really doing is you're getting maximum amount of heat into the tea, and you're getting the maximum amount, depending on how long you steep the tea, of course, of sort of like stuff. So flavor, energy, aftertaste, that kind of thing with the tea. So it tends to bring out the good stuff as well as the bad stuff, so it can be very rewarding if your tea is good, but it could also, like, let's say this tea was even more humidly stored, I could have been met with an extreme sour note that would be very unpleasant if it wasn't as clean as it was. But anyways, I'm babbling, so let's get on to steep number 2. So the sour note is diminished. I wouldn't even necessarily call it sour now note anymore. It's more of just sort of like a tang at the front, sort of like a slight sourness if you're biting into, I don't know, like a ripe fruit or something like that. This oolong also, I can taste it all the way, go all the way to the back of my mouth. So, and I'm tasting the aftertaste generally in most of my mouth right now. Maybe a little bit at the top of the throat. It's not what I would call a overly throaty tea. Lots of minerals as well. Maybe you could taste a hint of the remnant of the roast. Hit this once more. Cheers, guys. So now the tanginess, or whatever is left of it, is almost completely gone for the tea. The profile hasn't really changed too much. It's still got a really nice body, a strong fruit taste to it. Plum is definitely what I would call it. Some of these oolongs can tend to get more, rather than plum, it could get herbal. That's just another different profile, not necessarily good or bad. Some people prefer that. This one is not going too much into that category, maybe a hint of it. I'd say it's predominantly sort of a plum sweetness. And it's very, very pleasant tea, very easy for me to drink. These aged oolongs are very nice grandpa style. So, yeah, it's a tea that unfortunately I can't recommend because it's not available, but it certainly would be in terms of just its own qualities. I keep drinking this third steep. A little bit of wood too, in addition to the plums. A good alternative to aged pour. If you think about how much aged pour would cost if it were from 1985, it's a rather terrifying thought. You could maybe get something bad that's also still pretty expensive, but the big productions, anything good, it would be extremely expensive. So we are going to have steep number 4 here. It's gravitating more towards minerals, so it's sort of finishing up, sort of like how I think Wooey Oolongs tend to finish, or at least it's starting to move in that direction. It's still sort of like sweet plum plus the minerals. Cheers, guys. So, pretty much tasting like it smells. No hint of tanginess or sourness at all anymore. And I would say, in terms of like cleanness scale, this would definitely be like a 7 or so out of 10. So definitely on the clean end of things. I tend to not be very nice towards teas that have sort of tanginess, especially if it won't go away as it steeps out. So keep that in mind when you're talking about my evaluation of this tea. Some people will be more okay with that, and some people actually enjoy that note. I personally don't. So definitely some personal bias going into that. But I think that just about wraps up this In-Between-isode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know how you guys like this episode. I tried to review things that are available. So this episode might be a little bit, of a one-off in terms of this, but I do have a lot of aged oolongs, so I wanted to bring them on and just talk a little bit about them generally, as I thought this is a pretty decent example for me to drink on the show, just to sort of exemplify what's good or what's bad, the nice things as well as the flaws. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Cheers.